This video, I plan on demonstrating how to use constructors while using objects within Java. So let's get started here. We're going to create a new project. Java application's fine. Let's call this airplane example. How about that? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is clear my comments, and I plan on making an airplane object to go with my program here. So to do that, I'm going to right-click my package right here and go to New Java Class. I'm going to call it Airplane. And I'm going to think of some properties that my airplane might want to have. So I think an airplane would probably have like a make, like is it a Boeing or an Airbus, for example, or a Bombardier. Maybe the model of the airplane as well. Then we have number of passengers on the plane, and I'm not sure what else I might want here. Distance traveled, something like that, or flight length. How about that? We'll make that a double because we might have decimals for that value. Okay, so if I design my airplane like this, you know, if I'm in my regular program, I'll just show you how I can create an instance of it, and I'm going to show you a better way of doing it. So to make an airplane, what I can do is this. Airplane, let's just call it A1 equals new airplane, bracket, bracket. And then I can set things like A1 dot make equals Boeing, A1 dot model equals 747, A1 dot number of passengers equals, let's put 400, and A1 dot flight length, let's put in 4,500. Okay, so what this will do is it'll create an instance of my airplane, but it's full of empty things. Like each of these values is actually equal to null at this point, and then I fill them in using these 4 lines. Now, this is not that efficient right now because every single property I have to go ahead and set them one at a time like this. It's possible to send all the information inside its bracket here. And to do that, you have to use something called a constructor. So I'll show you what the constructor would look like for this. So let's make one that fills every single thing in. So the constructor is always going to be a public method, and we have to name it exactly the name of the class. So it has to be called public airplane in this example. So it must match this. And inside the brackets here, we're going to put in all this stuff. Now, usually what I do is I'll do something very similar to this variable name, but not the exact one. So a lot of times what I'll do is maybe put like underscore make instead of make, to make it almost the same, but not quite the same. And then string underscore model, and then int underscore num passengers, and then double underscore flight length. Just like that. So you're putting in 4 input variables into this constructor. So I've got the make, the model, the number of passengers, and the flight length. But I just changed the variable name and put an underscore here. So now all I have to do now inside of here, the code, is just say this. Make equals underscore make. Like that. And then model equals underscore model. And then num passengers equals underscore num passengers. And the last one is flight length equals underscore flight length. So all I'm doing is I'm just setting the variable here equal to whatever came into brackets. Basically, that's the idea here. So this is the constructor that will take all 4 arguments in. So it'll take the make, followed by the model, followed by number of passengers, followed by the flight length. So let me show you and make sure that this actually works. Now it doesn't like this because right now there is no constructor that has nothing in the brackets. So I would have to change this. I have to make it say something like this. You always got to make sure you get the order right. The first one was the make, right? Yep, that's make. So I can write Boeing, comma, 747, comma, num passengers, and then flight length. So 400, comma, 4,500. That will do it. So right now, I've done it in one line of code instead of 5. So let's go ahead and verify this thing actually works. We're going to print everything out. So we'll say a1 dot make a1 dot model a1 dot num passengers, and then we'll do a1 dot flight length. So let's just verify this actually works. Perfect. So it works exactly the way we want it to work. So I've created my airplane and I've set all the variables all in one spot. Now, if you remember, there was that error, right? So if I were to create a second one and do this, new airplane, like that, it doesn't like it, okay? Because there is no method that has an empty brackets like that. I'm going to create one right now. Let's go back here, and I usually tend to put these at the top. So I'm going to go public, oops, airplane, bracket, bracket, like this. This constructor right here has a special name. This is called the default constructor. So this is the constructor that runs when you give it no info. So a lot of times what people do is maybe they might leave everything blank, but you can also give everything dummy values or default values. So you can say something like this, make equals Airbus, model equals, I'm not sure the model is A320, something like that. Num passengers equals 0. And you know what? Let's set the flight length to some random number instead of just 0. Flight length equals math.random times 10,000. And I don't need to worry about putting it as an int or anything like that because this is a double here. So we'll leave it with the decimals. So this is the dummy or the default constructor for the airplane. So this line here, now the error goes away because there is one that has a blank set of brackets. So if you look, these methods are actually the same. The only difference is this one here is blank in the middle, and this method has a string, an int, and a double. So what happens is when Java tries to create the airplane, it looks and it says, hey, is there an airplane that has a string, an int, and then a double? If one matches that, it goes into that one. When it tries to run the second one, it looks for the one that has a blank bracket. If it's not there, it causes a problem, as you saw earlier, right? But because it is there, that's the code that will run. So let's go ahead and make sure that it runs. Print airplane 2. You know what? I'm going to just copy and paste this. Make my life a little bit easier. And I'll put A2s instead. So this one should say Airbus and so on. Yep. Here, I'm just going to put in a bunch of dashes to separate these a little bit. Just so it looks a tiny bit better. Perfect. So it does work. You can see that the Airbus was set. This is a random number. If I were to run it again, it probably generates a different one. I'm just showing you that you can do that. You can set random variables inside of constructors. That's no problem. And so so right now I have 2 constructors. I'm actually going to make one more constructor just to show you can do it. What if, for example, I know the make and the model, but I don't know how many passengers or what the flight length would be? I can create an airplane with just 2 variables. So let me show you that one. And I'm going to use the same stuff again, underscore make and string underscore model. So this time I only have 2 of them. And what I can do with these 2 is that, so if the user sends in the make and the model, I'm definitely going to use those. So I'm going to say make equals underscore make and model equals underscore model. Set those variables using the 2 that came in. And the other ones I don't know, so hey, why don't we use this code again? This is my unknown airplane code. So let's put that in there. So what happened in this case is the make and a model would be set by the user, but the number of passengers and a flight length would be set to 0 and then a random number. Let's try it out. So this time, let's go with Bombardier. And I don't know what their planes are called. I think this one called the Dash 8. So let's just send it two things like that. So this time, instead of calling the default constructor, I'm going to call the one that has two variables. And let's just make sure that it actually works. So the second one should say those things. Yep. And that's what ran. So it actually went into this constructor right here. This is the one that ran this time. So I sent in the make and the model, and I knew nothing else. And again, I'll show you, it'll print out 50 for the number of passengers. Yep. So the second constructor is running. So those are the three kinds. Let's do A3 equals new airplane bracket bracket. So this is the default one. And let's go ahead and print out the default plane too. Just to finish off the video here. And I'm just going to change these all to threes. Okay. Oops. Here we go. Okay, let's see what it looks like. Perfect. So you can see the first one was set by me for sure. That was the Boeing one. The second one was the Bombardier one that I passed in the information, just those two things. And the last one was completely generated through the default constructor. So anyways, this video was just a little demo of how constructors work in Java, how you can have multiple constructors and have them all work simultaneously depending on which line of code you want to use. And yeah, it just makes it a little bit more efficient when you're creating your objects.